If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip?
Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes rabbit. He choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stacked that he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about... Wait.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM, right here on DSM Media, live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Share this show out if you're watching on Facebook. All you got to do is click that little share button. Give it a little thumbs up. If you're watching on Twitter, make sure you click retweet. And make sure you shoot me a follow at Bearded Knowledge, at Fairway to Heaven, and DSM_media. If you're watching on YouTube, you hit the thumbs up button. You hit the subscribe button. And you hit that little bell that turns the notifications on so you don't miss when DSM Media is live with any of their great shows that are on every single day of the week. Again, I'm Phil Stiefel. This is Trending in the AM. Got a jam-packed show. I think we need to give some apologies out today. We started talking about it during yesterday's show, Jason Voorhees and I, about apologizing to Ed Wade. We were joking about it a little bit, but it got me thinking. Who do we owe apologies to in Philadelphia sports? And there's a lot of them. There's people from the Phillies, the Sixers, the Eagles. I got the Flyers. I got all four major teams. I don't really know enough about the Union to know if we owe any apologies to anybody from the Union and their history, their short history. I'll bite it. But I got names written down here. Some from you guys, some from me. So when we get into that part, we're going to start with a little Phillies recap of last night's win against the Braves. Then we're going to get into this apology topic. And I'm going to need, those watching to chime in. If you're over on Twitter, I can't hear or see your messages. So that's why today, a show like today, if you're watching on Twitter, you got to head over to the Facebook page or the YouTube page for DSM Media, or just Google search Trending in the AM, and it'll probably pop you right into, this show on YouTube, because that's where your answers will come up. I put it out on Twitter last night. I've got about a dozen names that I come up with. Jason has come up with, and the followers of the show and me have come up with. I can't wait to get in. Some of them are controversial, some of them not. I think it's a fun little conversation today. We're in the we're not even in the dog days of summer yet. Basketball's over, hockey's over with. The NBA playoffs, I've given up on. I mean, they're blowouts every other game. The Mavericks are just blowing it. So basketball's over. Hockey, sorry, I lost interest in hockey this year. Yeah, you're gonna miss out on doozy, because I got some names here that we got to get into. So what's there to talk about? The Eagles. I mean, we're in the they made a decent signing, but whatever. It's a rough time of year, so we got to get some different topics in here. I think the I am sorry, definitely something interesting. And this might be a topic. This might be a topic that we have to do multiple shows on, because there are a lot of varying opinions. I think Ed Wade deserves an apology. He wasn't here for the World Series win. You know what? Let's forget about the Phillies Braves recap. Let's just dive right into this topic in the I am sorry. And we start with Freddie Defos right here, saying that Ed Wade, and this is what made me come up with this topic of I am sorry. Ed Wade built the 2008 Phillies World Series team. No doubt about it. If it wasn't for him, we do not win the 2008 World Series. And we pushed him out of town. We did. He wasn't given enough time to really see the fruits of his labor come through. He was responsible for bringing in Cole Hamels, Jimmy Rollins. He's the one that hired Charlie Manuel instead of Jim Leyland, who was the popular choice. I like Jim Leyland. I wanted him instead of Jim Fregosi in '92. And he was the managing candidate again was it '05 when Charlie Manuel came to the Phillies? You know, Ed Wade didn't get to see it to the end. Maybe he wasn't capable of getting it to the end. I don't know. But he was able to bring in Ryan Howard, Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley. Probably was responsible for Carlos Ruiz as well. The core, the youth of that team, something that we lack at this current Phillies team. He did it. Then he was let go. Pat Gillick was brought in. He brought us over the hump. Then Ruben Amaro, who we're going to talk about in a minute as well. It all happens because of Ed Wade. Now, Ed Wade leaves. Then he goes to Houston, and he's responsible for Altuve, Springer, Dallas Keuchel. And then he gets let go when ownership changes. And then those core guys he brought in go on to win a World Series. Yes, they were found to be cheaters. Yes, I know that. But Ed Wade, as a GM, as a talent evaluator, was not that bad. Comments are rolling in here. We're going to get to some of these. Absolutely. But the talent wasn't that bad. So, I think a lot of Philadelphia fans, including myself, need to say, I'm sorry, Ed Wade. I'm sorry, Ed Wade. All right. So I got to get some more comments here. We got Casey chiming in, Sean McDermott. Yeah, I mean, we thought Sean McDermott was the it's weird where our coordinators, we always think our coordinators are just the worst. Then they go on to be pretty damn good head coaches elsewhere. Jason Voorhees, yeah, it's insane what he did for the Astros as well. Yeah, McDermott is a good one. JJ was a hard act to follow. And this is actually kind of, hard acts to follow are kind of a theme for some other guys that I think deserve some apologies. When you follow Jim Johnson, one of the greatest defensive minds that football ever had, it's going to be a tough act to follow for sure. And, we wanted him to be Jim Johnson, and we didn't give him the time to develop the culture. Exactly. That's a great comment right there. Sometimes it's tough to follow a big act. I put on my list Tom McCarthy and Kate Scott are owed apologies because it's different because they're announcers. Jim and Sean McDermott is a coach, but T-Mac followed the legendary Harry Kalas. Everybody instantly hated him. Everybody hated Kate Scott this year because she followed the legendary Mark Zumoff. When you follow a legend that has a reputation going back not just with Jim Johnson was here for, the Andy Reid era, but he was in football for 40 years, 50 years. He had a reputation of being it wasn't like a short little, blip on a radar of a career of success for Jim Johnson. He was a great defensive coach for a really long time. And he when he's gone and Sean McDermott steps up, you can't anyway, when Brian Dawkins left, when any of the legends leave, the next person is always expected to be that person. And they can't be. They shouldn't want to be somebody else. They should want to be themselves. So I think we owe an apology to Sean McDermott. He's doing a heck of a job now, in the NFL. We definitely owe him an apology for sure. But again, T-Mac following Harry Kalas, I think he's owed an apology. Everybody hated him, but I think he's turned into a damn fine play-by-play person. Absolutely has. And Kate Scott, I'm crossing these names off as I mention them, so I know I've touched on them. So we've covered Wade, we've covered Kate Scott, we've covered T-Mac. Really, really, really good play-by-play people. They just, following legends. All right, so let's go. We talk Ed Wade. I mentioned his name. Ruben Amaro, I think, is owed an apology by some people. Ruben Amaro, announcer for the Phillies pre- and post-game show. Sometimes he does color in the booth. He was covering for John Kruk last night in the booth. Everybody thinks he's an awful GM when he was with the Phillies. He gave out all these big contracts. And yeah, they didn't work out. But let's backtrack to when he gave Ryan Howard that big contract. Hindsight's 2020 always. No one foresaw him tearing his Achilles in 2011 on the last play of the season in the playoffs and then never being the same player again. His contract if you look at the deals that some of the other people signed, some of these deals are still getting signed right now, are still being paid right now. He got Ryan Howard at a cheap, compared to the market, deal. And he was put in a position to that the '08 Phillies team wasn't the most talented Phillies team of that run. But then once we won that, it was his job to try to maintain. And goes out, constantly makes trades, brings in Roy Halladay, brings in Cliff Lee again. Ruben Amaro made some mistakes as a GM, but he's mostly crushed for that Ryan Howard contract. If you really think about it, the Cat, Andres Galarraga, got a bigger deal. Prince Fielder got a bigger deal. Albert Pujols got a bigger deal. Ryan Howard was putting up better numbers than all those guys when he signed that contract. He was a perennial MVP, putting up 40 to 55 home runs a year, 120 RBIs a year, leading a team to a World Series. He was worth every penny. Oh, Freddie, we got him on the name. I had a couple people on Twitter nominate him. We're gonna get him to him in a second, for sure. But I wanted to cover that. Since we were talking Ed Wade, I wanted to cover Ruben Amaro. Ruben Amaro, to me, I never gave him a hard time for it. I think he did a pretty solid job with what he had to deal with. By the time he got here, they didn't have the minor league system because all the minor leaguers were up on the team. I think Ruben Amaro deserves an apology for sure. All right, so since Freddie brought it up, somebody else on my Twitter page, but I think a couple people brought up Donovan McNabb. I know Jeff Warren from the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast, he told me that we owe an apology to Donovan McNabb. Freddie is saying Donovan McNabb. So do we owe an apology to Donovan McNabb? It's a tough question. You're talking to a guy that still has his Donovan McNabb jersey. You see, it's hanging up back there. You're talking to a big Donovan McNabb supporter right here. A guy that we're also going to apologize to T.O., but a guy that originally took T.O.'s side. So I do owe an apology to T.O. for that aspect of it. We'll get to that in a second. But Donovan McNabb, Andy Reid, the whole group, Jim Johnson, brought consistent relevance to this Philadelphia Eagles franchise. Ooh, this is a fan. We'll get back to the Eagles in a second. Yeah, this is a big one. Everybody needs to apologize. Yeah, I don't even know how to answer that one exactly, without like dropping like a million cuss words and stuff like that in it. But Donovan McNabb, he kept this franchise relevant for a very long time. See, I disagree with this one, George, because I think only a select few owe Michael Irvin an apology. I don't think for anybody that doesn't know what George is bringing up here. Michael Irvin, his last game at the Vet, took a bad fall, took a bad hit, and he laid motionless on the turf, on that rock hard turf. That now we got the controversy of all these Phillies that played on that turf that are dying of a very rare form of brain cancer. So Michael Irvin hits that turf, he lays motionless for a while. And there were people in the stands that were cheering it. I don't think more than 5 or 6 people were legitimately cheering that because they were glad that Michael Irvin might be paralyzed. Some of the cheering might have been just drunk. Yes, one of the Cowboys is down. We don't realize what's going on. We just got our bitter enemy. He's down on the ground. A lot of it had to do with alcohol, probably. The Vet, come on. There's a reason why there's a jail at the Vet. I don't think anybody truly, or a majority of them weren't truly hoping he was paralyzed. I think that's a misconception. I'm willing to get interrupted here and talk about any name. Some of them I might pass because I really don't know how to get my Dick Allen thoughts out properly on that one. But we're gonna bring up anyone you want me to put in here. Don't worry about Pandora's box. Michael had everything he had coming to me. He said, "Tucker, got to be humbled." Yeah, I mean, it ended his career. Pretty sure. I don't know if he had played another game or two, but it was pretty much the end of his career. The thing with Michael Irvin was, it was an emotional moment. So some of the cheering was that. There was probably 4 or 5 really awful people that just were glad and hoping he was paralyzed. But there's very few people that owe the apology, I think, in that specific Michael Irvin thing. Back to Donovan McNabb. Sorry, Freddie. I got off your D-Nab there because the Michael Irvin one was great. Brought relevance to the city. Took us to a boatload of championship games. Won Super Bowl. In a small market, Tennessee, Titans, Houston Texans, which I don't even know if Houston Texans is considered a small market. They're just not a good team right now. I'm trying to think of the small markets, for football teams. Carolina, maybe even the Dolphins or the Buccaneers, a smaller market. Atlanta. What Donovan did and his career, if you take it from Philadelphia, you take the Philadelphia Eagles team and their success from that time frame for like 10 or 12 years, and you put it in any small market city, he is praised. He's probably lauded as the best quarterback in that franchise history. He's probably got pictures all over. I mean, Don McNabb gets a bad rap in Philly because we didn't win a Super Bowl, and that's all we want is a Super Bowl. We want titles in Philadelphia. But what he did for the franchise, keeping it relevant for so long, with outside of the brief stretch with T.O., with no wide receivers, with a terrible running game sometimes they had a running game. The offensive line was always good. They had a good defense. They just came up small in big moments. But if you put that in the big market team in a small market, Don McNabb is probably one of the most beloved person in that city. We just expect more in Philly. So do we owe an apology? I don't, because I've never stopped supporting Donovan McNabb. But I think a lot of people out there do owe Donovan McNabb, an apology for that. On the other side of it, T.O., do we owe T.O. an apology? I mean, I do. I took Donovan McNabb's side. When he's sitting there in his driveway doing those sit-ups, talking to reporters, doing what he was doing, I was like, I don't want this brass attitude in my city. Get him out of here. We keep him, we probably win a Super Bowl. If we make some kind of peace accord between what happened, man, my Wi-Fi is getting all wonky here. Hope that's not been going to. And I got to reset my Wi-Fi box for sure. Just noticed that. Hopefully you guys can all hear me still. Anyway, I said, keep Donovan, get rid of T.O., and obviously we probably win a Super Bowl if we keep T.O. If we find a peace accord between the two of them, we find a way to make it work between the two of them, I don't know. It may have resulted into a sooner Super Bowl than 2017. I don't know. Donnie always had a love hate. He did. He wasn't the most fan-friendly quarterback. That is for sure. Yeah, we could say kind of sustained success again. It's tough. It really is. The NFL is a little different nowadays, and with the way the salaries are getting out of control, and what wide receivers are getting per se, and quarterbacks, it's hard to keep a team around for a long time. It really is. The celebrating the injury cannot be a trend. Absolutely. Yeah. Got to shake that narrative. I've been trying to preach that narrative as a Philly fan for a long time. T.O. was wasted. So if we're going to stick with the Eagles, got some more. My man George yesterday sent me a message. Do we owe? Well, I owe. He wanted to make sure he pointed out that I owe Jordan Mailata an apology. Yes. I was ready to move on from Jordan Mailata 2 years ago. I was not prepared for Jordan Mailata to have the breakout that he did, to become one of the best left tackles in football. Because, let's be honest, he is now one of the best left. He's probably top 5, 6 left tackles in football. We'll get to hockey, Freddie, because I do have one hockey name that was nominated. So that's not the name, but I'll bring that up in a minute. I did not see Jordan Mailata becoming one of the best left tackles. I did not. I thought it was a wasted experiment. Time to move on to somebody that actually played football before. Stop wasting time coaching this kid, because what are we really going to get out of him? It was worth the 7th-round pick. He hadn't done anything yet. Whatever. Let's just say they put the time and effort in, and their time and effort is paying off. And I joke, and it's not possible, but Jeff Stoutland should get a green jacket or a yellow jacket, a gold jacket, be put in the Hall of Fame just on his development of Jordan Mailata. Absolutely. You can't get in on just one. But he's got a great track record anyway. Absolutely. Oh, come on. It's going to be a cupcake schedule this year, too. The defensive ends in football, he's going up against a great defensive end most weeks. It's a pretty talented position in football. But all right, top 10. We'll settle on top 10. But he's paid top 15, top 20, because Howie Roseman locked him up early. So that deal is going to pay off. Howie Roseman. Lots of people saying Howie Roseman. I owe an apology to Howie Roseman to an extent. A lot of fans do. But we shouldn't, because if we really think about Howie Roseman, we think about the big picture of Howie Roseman, we owe him an apology. We're not going to win a Super Bowl this year. You never know. I guess anything is possible. But this guy took over the Joe Banner era. And tried to continue it. He got pushed out for Chip Kelly, that whole debacle. Comes back and has learned from his mistakes slowly. He brought us. He made every right decision and brought us our first Super Bowl in franchise history. Yeah, George, you definitely do not owe him an apology. You've been standing by him since day one, and I give you major credit for that. Brought us a Super Bowl. He's tried to keep us relevant. He's gone through this whole Carson Wentz debacle, come out the other side of it, gone through the struggles with Doug Peterson, come out the other side of it. It seems like, trending in the AM, the Eagles are trending up. It's probably because of Howie Roseman. His drafting has gotten better. He was able to win us a Super Bowl when he was a poor drafter. But his drafting's getting better now. He's still making really, really, I don't know the right word for it, free agent moves. He's not necessarily going out and just blowing the bank on Nnamdi Asomugha or Byron Maxwell anymore. He's going out there and making smart signings of Hassan Reddick. And, bringing in guys like James Bradbury instead of Steven. He's learning every year a little bit more. And he's already got that Super Bowl. And it was only, 5 years ago? I can't do the math in my head. 2022, 2017. Yeah, 5 years ago. Most teams would be ecstatic that they won a Super Bowl 5 years ago and are still trending as almost every single year. It was just the first year of Hurts and Wentz, that Wentz Hurts year. We missed the playoffs. But we had made the playoffs the previous couple years. So we went 17 playoffs, 18 playoffs, 19 playoffs, 20 playoffs, 21 we missed, 2022 we made. He's only missed the playoffs once in the last 6 years. Maybe it's time that we start giving him the credit. But before we start giving him the credit, the apology he deserves, that maybe he's not a bad GM. Now, week 3, when we're 1-2, and the Eagles are thinking, I'm going to be banging the bandwagon, fire Howie, because my emotions will get the best of me. But I'm sure some of you will keep tabs. I'm saying it now. Just pull a little clip of this. We owe Howie an apology. We owe him the patience to see this through because he's shown success. Absolutely. So we talk about Howie and how he managed that whole Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz and all that stuff. I had a nomination. I kind of forgot who he was, so I had to go back and Google search it, and then it refreshed my memory. Bill Brown on Twitter at BR0. The O is a 0 in his name. He said he gave me 2 names, and one was an Eagles-related name, and that was Joe. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. Santoloquido. He was a reporter, and he was the one that broke Howie Roseman's a top 5, top 10 at worst GM. Yeah. I'd probably put him somewhere in that 5 to 10 range, probably 5, 6. I would have to sit down and really think about each team's GM and their longevity and stuff like that. I would have to do some serious research on that. And maybe that'll be another topic for another day, trying to figure out how many of them are better than him. But Joe Santa, let me see if I'm trying to say this again right. Joe Santoloquido, he was a reporter that broke the Carson Wentz drama in 2019 before it all went down. I think it was 2019 when he first broke the article about him, being bad in the locker room and having issues. People went to his house and put claw mark, and cut up his door. They smashed his neighbor's windshield. They They were threatening him. I read an article that dog crap was put in his mailbox. I mean, come on. And this is all because he was trashing Carson Wentz. And yes, I'm a big Carson Wentz guy, and this was before I was big on Twitter. I might have been on it like once a month, maybe once a year. So I don't remember, all the online harassment section of it. But, dude, when I reread into it, and I had heard the story, and I'd read his story because I was still reading articles back then instead of just doing the social media thing. I questioned it. I questioned his sources. It turns out his sources were probably right. Carson Wentz now on his third team in 3 years. Carson Wentz has had troubles everywhere he goes. Guy might not be wrong. We owe him an apology. That is it. We think we owe. George had mentioned. Marcus Smith is owed an apology, and we can mention that next. But this is a guy where Philly fans are just taking their passion a little too far. Don't like that he's bashing our quarterback, so you're gonna go destroy his property, threaten his family, smash his neighbor's car window by mistake because you thought it was. It's like something out of a movie. It's like out of The Big Lebowski when John Goodman's character, sees the fancy car outside and starts smashing, and that's the neighbor's car and not the kid's car. Long story, side tangent. Anyway, love The Big Lebowski. That's taking it too far. Go into this guy's house where his kids and family live. Damn. Definitely owe him an apology. All right, so Marcus Smith. I love George. George, everybody, always has a different outlook on things sometimes. He sees things differently. And he says we owe, it depending on where we want to go, we owe Marcus Smith an apology. And I said, if you're going to give Marcus Smith an apology, we should probably give Jalen Reagor an apology too. Not me. Not George. Not 51% of Philadelphia Eagles fans. But these are the guys, Marcus Smith to a huge extent, because I know he contemplated suicide. He was the draft pick, the bust of a draft pick. I think he was taken like 20th or 21st overall. Maybe it might have even been sooner than that in the draft. Now I'm thinking on that one. But we harass these guys. Fans harass these guys because they're not living up to the expectations that they have for these guys. And then sometimes they take it too far. Took it too far with the Joe Santoliquito reporter. I mean, the stuff we had an episode, I don't know if it was this or when I was just doing my weekly night show, Trending for 4 Quarters, about the physically, the mentally, strain that you're putting on Jalen Reagor by calling him all these awful names, telling him to jump off a bridge and whatever. I'm just making up things, but I mean, the length that Twitter keyboard warrior trolls will take their harassment. It's just regular people that have a screw loose that create burner accounts and then go into social media and harass these people. Now, Marcus Smith, we're going back. I mean, I don't even know if Twitter was around. I don't even know what year Twitter started. But still, the people harassed him. And they were pretty awful towards him. So awful that he contemplated suicide. Jalen Reagor, because of the way social media is now, it's probably 10 times worse than Marcus Smith. Now, I don't know how he's handling it. I hope he's handling it okay. I mean, he goes through his fits where he has to shut down his social media for certain periods of time and whatnot. But any fan, any player, any reporter, any athlete, any coach that you ever physically wished harm on because you didn't like their performance, not only do you need to apologize, you need to go to church, you need to seek mental help. You need to do something. Because, let me tell you something. You got something wrong with you. And it needs to stop. We talk about the reputation of Philly fans. I mean, this stuff happens in every city. But it gets blown up because in Philly. And I hate it. I hate the reputation we have. I try so hard to preach that we're not that bad of people. But it always goes to the wayside because there's always that one or two idiots that does it. I think I covered my Eagles list. I got Mailata, T.O., Roseman, McNabb, Marcus Smith, Santoliquito, and Reagor. They were my names. Exactly. There's no excuse for that fan behavior. There really isn't. It honestly disgusts me. It really does. The way fans treat players that don't live up to the fans' expectations. I've always said it. I don't have a problem with Jalen Reagor, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, any of these guys. It's not their fault. It's not their fault that they're drafted out of position. If Jalen Reagor was drafted in the second round, there would have been a little bit less pressure on him maybe to be successful. If Arcega-Whiteside was drafted in the fourth or fifth round, there'd be a lot less pressure on these guys. They also might have gotten cut sooner, which would have given them that fresh start sooner. All right, I am sorry, Jordan Mailata. I was wrong. I love you, Jordan Mailata. If you would come on my show, I will show you a better time than Jake from Talking 215. I guarantee it. I will apologize, okay? I will apologize to you in person. We'll eat pancakes, whatever it is that you like. I'm sorry, Jordan Mailata. Look, the fan behavior is disgusting. I can't get over it. It's one thing if we have to apologize to like Ed Wade or Howie Roseman because we were wrong. But the extra harsh way that players are treated, especially in this city, it's disgusting. Yeah, people need to realize that the players, when it comes to draft position, the problem could be it is the front office, KC. That is the thing. Jalen Reagor was a second-round pick. Drafted, what was it, 21st, 22nd, whatever it was. Justin Jefferson was on the board. It's all those things put together. Skipping, Justin Jefferson for Jalen Reagor. That all gets put into it, and all our hate and all our frustrations get poured on these players. And there's way too many people, because of the way social media is, that feel the ability to act tough. When they guarantee you, things that are said to these players on social media, they would never say in person to any of these players. Not a chance in hell. Arcega-Whiteside, DK Metcalf. He was a fourth-round pick. Got taken ahead of DK Metcalf. It's not his fault. He's never going to live up to his expectations. It's not an exact science, but it does put undue pressure sometimes on players that shouldn't be put in that position. They're set up to fail. It backtracks. We don't owe an apology. A lot of teams owe a lot of apologies to quarterbacks. Because a lot of quarterbacks get drafted. I'm really surprised that no quarterbacks got drafted this year in the top 10, even though none of them were top 10 quarterbacks. But the worst teams always have quarterback needs, and they always draft quarterbacks way too early in a draft. Sets them up for failure from the get-go. It sets them up to be criticized right from the get-go because it's a quarterback-driven league. So, drafting isn't an exact science, but it also puts undue pressure on players that might not be ready for that spot yet. Sometimes it isn't the talent. The talent may justify the position, but you get them into the building and they just aren't fit. Absolutely. Absolutely fair point, too. But that's why all this, we shouldn't be so harsh on players when they don't meet our expectations. Jalen Reagor isn't meeting what we want him to be. It doesn't mean we could tell him to jump off a bridge or go do some physical harm to yourself, call him all these names. That's the problem. So that's the Eagles. I got some more. Defo mentioned hockey up here. Craig Berube. I don't even know why we owe an apology to Craig Berube. But I did get one person on Twitter say Ed Snyder. We couldn't wait to run Ed Snyder and his run in the Flyers with the Flyers way for so long. Now Comcast, NBC Sports, whoever owns the Flyers now, running the organization in the ground. We thought it would all be better once Ed Snyder passed away. And I know it sounds an awful way to say, but there were legitimately Flyers fans hoping they couldn't wait till Ed Snyder passed away so the organization could be sold and moved and different people can be running it. They legitimately talked about that, the Flyers fans. Not me, but Flyers fans said that. Because Ed Snyder kept bringing in former Flyers to coach and former Flyers to be GMs and stuff, and that wasn't the way to do it. We needed a fresh start. But now the Flyers, all of a sudden, it didn't matter how bad the Flyers were back during the Ed Snyder era. Didn't matter. That building was sold out every single night. Now, you can't get 10,000 fans in that Flyers arena. The organization is in total upheaval, total disaster. And now everyone's calling for Comcast to sell them. Because the Flyers ain't going to be able to do anything until they get rid of Comcast. Well, Ed Snyder's rolling around in his grave right now. So major shout out to Ed Snyder. There's a lot of Flyers fans out there that owe him an apology because it was also the Ed Snyder era We didn't win a cup since the 70s, I think it was. But again, the Flyers, my whole life, the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s, all through the 90s, for the most part, the 2000s, were a relevant team. Kind of like the McNabb-Reed Eagles. They made it to a couple cups, 96 against the Red Wings, and they made one other in the 2010 range. We owe an apology to them because he kept them relevant, never got over the hump. It's tough to win a title in any sport, and kept them relevant. We pushed them out, passes away, and now this organization is in complete upheaval. Yep, that's why I like Bill moving people around. I'll find a spot for you if you're willing to play. Yeah. JJ to tight end at least shows that they're willing to give him a shot. Yeah, absolutely. I don't owe an apology to JJ Ortega-Whiteside. I've always been a JJ Ortega-Whiteside supporter. All right, so Ed Snyder, off the board. It's funny, if you think about it, most of the people that we're apologizing to are coaches and GMs and managers. Very few players. T.O., I mean, it's either, me questioning Jordan Mailata. Again, I'm sorry, Jordan Mailata. I apologize. I was wrong about you. But that was, let's be honest. We got lucky that he worked out. He put in the effort and it worked out. It's great. But most of these people we talk about the GM or ownership of every single team that we owe apologies to. And I'm going back to the Phillies. Do we owe Gabe Kapler an apology? We talk about Ed Snyder getting pushed out of here. Certain GMs getting pushed out and coaches getting pushed out. Do we owe Gabe Kapler? I mean, Matt Klentak and Andy McPhail gave him all those players. He gave him some crappy ass players, and he got them to 500. We couldn't wait to get Gabe Kapler out of Philly. We do. We bring in Joe Girardi, and the team's underperforming even more. And Gabe Kapler's out there in San Francisco winning 100 games a year. Lost in the playoffs last year, but again, very tough to win a title. Getting to the playoffs year after year takes skills. It takes a good team. So maybe we owe Gabe Kapler an apology. Possibly. Okay, yeah, Craig Brewer, yeah, when he left, that's right. I knew there was something there. I couldn't remember. Look, hockey's 4 on my list of the 4 for 4 right there. Yeah, Dave Hackstall was god-awful. He was god-awful coach. It's probably about the time where my Flyers, lack of following began was with Dave Hackstall there because he was just such a bad coach for the Flyers. So Gabe Kapler, maybe we owe him a bit of an apology. I don't know. Maybe we rushed the gun on him. Maybe if we would have just fired Klentak and brought in someone like Dombrowski when Gabe Kapler was still here. I don't know if Gabe Kapler's personality, his West Coast personality, really was a fit in Philly. But maybe with the right talent, Gabe Kapler could have won here. Maybe it just he needed a different GM, and Matt Klentak. Obviously, we don't owe him any apologies. I will not foresee Gabe we can't foresee him going on being a successful GM anywhere else. But Gabe Kapler, maybe we owe you a small apology. The book is still being written on that one. Jordan Poyer could have sorted out our safety woes over the last decade. Not that I'm complaining about the Rodney. Yeah, whose decision, George, was it to get rid of Jordan Poyer? Was Howie still in charge at that point? Or was that Chip Kelly's decision to move on from Poyer? I'm not sure time frame where that was. While I wait for that answer, sticking to the Phillies, I want to say that Jason Voorhees, if I owe Jordan Mailata 17 apologies on this show. All right, George saying he thinks I think it was Kelly too. I'm not positive, but I think it was Kelly. That if I have to say I'm sorry to Jordan Mailata 600 times this show, Jason is not on the show. And he's already apologized for it. But we need to make sure, Jason, somebody can clip this section. We're at the 39:18 of this show out. Clip it and send it to Jason on social media. He needs to apologize 5 more times about Bryce Harper. He said trade Bryce Harper last year. Bryce Harper stinks. He's hitting 200. Get him out of here. And then Bryce Harper goes on to finish the year and win the MVP. Now, I say, Jason, Bryce Harper must have heard Jason's comments. And just Jason's comments motivated Bryce Harper to be a better baseball player and win the MVP. But Bryce Harper Jason Voorhees owes you about 10 more apologies for what he said about you last year. So let's make sure, everybody, we hit up Jason Voorhees at Mustang3651 on Twitter and remind him that he needs to apologize to Bryce Harper 10 more times. While we're at it, should we apologize to Chip Kelly for certain things? Yeah. I mean, if we're going to give Ed Wade some apology for building the foundation of the Phillies 08 World Series championship, I guess because you're saying he did build some of the foundation for the Super Bowl, absolutely agree. I guess we should give him maybe not an apology. Maybe we should just give him a pass and stop talking bad about him. Is that a fair compromise? We need to apologize to each other. Chip owes us. We owe him. Yeah. Maybe we just give Chip a pass and stop bashing the guy. I don't know. I mean, he did lay a foundation. I don't know. We need to apologize to each other. Yeah. Yeah, the Chip Kelly are. I just don't know. I wasn't on board with Chip Kelly right from the get-go. I was actually wrong. Yeah. That's fair enough. I wouldn't be apologizing to Jordan Mailata right now if Kelly doesn't bring Stoutland to Philly. I was all about the Gus bus. I was all for Gus Bradley being the head coach of the Eagles. If you look at it, every time there's a head coaching opening with the Eagles, if you look at the people I picked, they never get hired because they're all I wanted Robert Saleh. It was okay with the Jets last year. Maybe he's starting to turn that culture around. Had a bad team. We'll see how they do this year. Some are predicting them to win 6 or 7 or 8 games this year. I always want the defensive-minded coach. It's just who I am. I love defense. But I wasn't on board with Chip Kelly. And he brings us to the playoffs his first year. Really thought that was going to be the prove I was wrong. I don't know, but I don't know if I'm ready to apologize to him. I just don't. I mean, I just won't say anything bad about him. I just won't say anything bad. That's all I could say. I just won't say anything bad about him. I'm wrong on head coaches all the time. If you look at it, I didn't want Doc Rivers. He was my second choice. I wanted Ty Lue. Ty Lue's doing nothing with the Clippers. Glenn Rivers stinks. Okay. You know, it's crazy. I actually have an interesting thing I want to pull up, and this kind of, does it. I ran a poll this week, and I totally forgot about it. I got a notification the poll ended last night, and I totally forgot. It was like 10:30 on a Friday night when I ran it, so I didn't even remember doing it. So the poll was, which leader of their team do you want gone right now? And then the other one, you're stuck for at least the rest of this year and next season. And I put Glenn Rivers, because we're not calling him Doc anymore, and Joe Girardi. So the question is, which one of those two are we going 10 years from now, are we going to be apologizing to? If either. Are we gonna fire Joe Girardi and then in a few years realize it wasn't Joe Girardi's fault, this team was just bad, or that Joe Girardi goes somewhere else and shows what different type of talent he can still win as a manager? Are we going to be apologizing? I mean, I'm ready to run Joe Girardi out of town. I don't care if the Phillies won 7-3 last night. Are we going to be apologizing to Joe Girardi? Are we going to be apologizing to Glenn Rivers? And am I going to be calling him Doc again? I know Daryl Morey says that Doc Rivers is going to be back next year, but all offseason, until the Lakers hire somebody, the Lakers are going to be linked to Glenn Rivers. And if he goes, and all of a sudden LeBron and Anthony Davis turn their awful season from whatever it was, missing the playoffs this year, into a championship team next year, are we going to be all saying, damn, we let Glenn go? I'm sorry. I don't know. Glenn Rivers, hold on, let me pull the poll up here real quick. More people want to fire Joe Girardi now and keep Glenn Rivers for another year plus. It was 55 to 45% of the vote. So if we fire Joe Girardi, are we going to be apologizing? If we keep Glenn Rivers, are we going to be apologizing to Joel Embiid? I think we owe an apology to Joel Embiid. I owe an apology to Joel Embiid because I was on the Ben Simmons bandwagon. I never wanted to trade Ben Simmons up until this year. I never wanted to get rid of Brett Brown. I thought Brett Brown, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid would be the threesome that bring a title to Philly for the Sixers. And I said, Joel, you could figure it out with Ben Simmons and Brett Brown. And I remember doing Scotty Talks before DSM was even a thing and being on the show and saying, no, there's no way, shape, or form I'm getting rid of Brett Brown or Ben Simmons. I just couldn't foresee getting rid of those guys. I thought maybe it was that process love of Brett Brown, of him getting 10 wins out of a high school basketball team in the NBA. I don't know. I had this affinity for them, and I was wrong. And I'm sorry to Joel Embiid for that. Because maybe if we move on from Brett Brown, maybe if we move on from Ben Simmons sooner, maybe if we get James Harden a year sooner, this year's different. I don't know. So I'm sorry to Joel Embiid for not having his back, for trying to support keeping Ben Simmons and Brett Brown around longer. And on the flip side, the NBA owes the Sixers and Sam Hinkie an apology, because we're not where we are with the Sixers without the process. And I've said it a million times on this show. Other teams do the tankathon thing that the Sixers did with Sam Hinkie. The Oklahoma City Thunder are doing it right now. They literally have like 700 draft picks. There's only 2 rounds in the NBA draft. They have like 700 draft picks in the next 3-4 years. But they're not calling it a catchy, marketable name. The process, we're tanking. They're not just calling it out as it is. They're just, quietly doing it. So maybe we owe Sam Hinkie an apology. Not us, the NBA. Because let's be honest, the NBA forced the Sixers pretty much to fire him and bring in the Colangelos and end the process. And that's just been a disaster ever since. All the work Hinkie did, the Fultz Tatum drama, the Tobias, the Jimmy, but so many things. I think if Sam Hinkie stayed and got to see it through to the end, we might see a different product right now. We might. Now Brett Brown might still be here, and that could be a problem. But it can't be any worse than Glenn Rivers. So maybe the NBA owes Sam Hinkie and the Sixers an apology. Sam Hinkie has not been hired by another team since then. He's not even been interviewed for GM jobs anywhere else in the NBA. This guy orchestrated the whole process, getting assets, where we are as a Sixers team right now, just like Ed Wade orchestrated what the 08 Phillies were. Sam Hinkie orchestrated what we are right now. He laid the building blocks for it. No team is giving him a job. And I really do think that some of that blame needs to go to the NBA. And they should apologize. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm glad we started with this topic, because I just went 47 minutes on who do we apologize to. Well, I thought it would take like 25, 30 minutes. So I'm glad I started with this topic because, I got one other name I didn't cross off my list here. Alec Bohm. That was my man. I think it was Scooter McGill I'm talking 215. I think he said Alec Bohm. Yeah, Scooter McGill. Scooter McGill won on Twitter, part of Talking 215. He says we owe Alec Bohm an apology. Rookie year, the 2020 shortened COVID season. Finishes second in Rookie of the Year. Last year, struggles mightily. Everybody was ready to give up on him. Gets the third base starting job right out of the gate. Commits 3 errors and 3 innings right out of the gate. Second game of the year. Everybody's ready to fire this guy on a rocket ship to the moon. While I'm suggesting batting him leadoff or in the 2-hole. Since they moved him up in the 2-hole, the 2-hole has been solidified. Now, I don't think he's a 2-hole hitter for the rest of his career. But I think as he gets older, he will develop the ability to drive the ball for home runs a little bit more. He's got that natural athletic swing. He should hit 20, 25 home runs. But the guy's thriving. He's got 6 errors on this year, this year so far. We are, 42 games into the season? Not good. But 3 of them were in 3 innings of 1 game. So really, he's got 3 errors over the other 41 games. That's not bad. So maybe it's time for us all to show if it's a lesser extent Jordan Mailata, because Jordan Mailata has taken a bigger step so far than Alec Bohm has. But again, and I know George says it all the time, patience is not a virtue of most Philadelphia fans. And that's something that we want the title now. We do. We want the title. We want the title. We want the title. But sometimes a little bit of patience could pay off to multiple titles down the line. Yes, we'll debate whether a coach needs to be fired or this or that has to be traded or who to sign, who not to sign. But big picture, most championship teams in most sports, in most cities, win because they have a good foundation of young talent that they groom themselves, and then they add the key free agents or key trades to take them over the hump. That's kind of what the Sixers did, growing Joel Embiid with Ben Simmons. They added Tobias Harris. It didn't work out. They move on. So they started with the young core. When you think about it, Matisse Thybulle, part of the young core. Tyrese Maxey, part of the young core. And then you tweak it and you add James Harden. It didn't work out. Now they'll tweak it a little bit more. The 08 Phillies, you had the young core. You had Rollins, Utley, Howard, all those guys. You add in Joe Blanton. You add in Jamie Moyer. You add in Matt Stairs. Takes you over the hump. The Eagles in 17 had the young core. You add in LeGarrette Blount, Jay Ajayi, Chris Long. I'm forgetting some other names. But they add in those pieces. So you have that young core to build the long-term success. And then you add in to get you over the hump. It's success versus sustained success. Absolutely. And to have that sustained success, you've got to have that young core. You also, in baseball, though, you have to have that young core, and you have to have a pipeline, a more young core. You can't just have it stop, because that's what the problem was with the Phillies. The young core stopped after the Utleys and the Rollins. The guys they traded away for other stars never became anything. So it's not like we traded away young prospects to get stars to finish the process of the baseball team. We traded away prospects that most of them never even made it to the majors. The young core with the Sixers is still continuing, even with us losing draft picks and even with us trading away for Butler, Tobias, James Harden, all these guys. We've still been able to draft half well. I mean, like it or not, Shake Milton, key part of our bench. He was a second-round draft pick. Furkan Korkmaz was a late first-round pick. He shouldn't be playing in the playoffs. He was playing viable minutes in the playoffs. Tyrese Maxey, getting him in the 20th pick or so of the draft. You're continuing that young core to keep building around. You got to have that and that's why the Sixers' success, it's going to continue as long as they don't get rid of one of them. Because you got Joel Embiid in his prime, maybe 2 years left of his prime. You got Tyrese Maxey, who's only 21, he's still 2 or 3 years away from hitting his prime. He's probably, as a human being, not fully even developed yet. So you got to have, for that sustained success, yes, you got to bring in outside people to finish the process, but you got to have continued young players. And that's why Alec Boehm, giving up on him after last year would have been stupid. Now, he might not be a long-term fit at third base. But with the DH and with first base, there's ways to keep him around. You keep Alec Boehm because then you have a young guy that you've been able to bring up through the system, keep and develop. And it's really crucial to a team in any sports long-term success. Same thing with Jordan Mailata. We brought him in. We groomed him. Patience. I wasn't patient with him. I'm sorry, Jordan Mailata. But now look, you've got, according to me, top 10. George says 12, top 12. Top 12 paid left tackle in the league, which is a steal. He'll make Pro Bowls. He might even be an All-Pro at some point in his career. I always bash the PFF grades. They always grade him out as one of the best left tackles in the league. Look, patience. It's not something that we have a virtue of, but it's something that, we should have. Hey, that's it with the apologies. That's 54 minutes on apologies right there. Real quick before I wrap the show up. Phillies won last night 7-3 over the Braves. They had some offense. They scored 7 runs in the first, I think it was the first few innings they got their runs in. Let me double check the box score. Yeah, they had 7 runs by the 4th inning. Didn't score the rest of the game. Zach Wheeler pitched a gem last night, 6 2/3. Struck out 10. Didn't walk anybody. This guy's ERA down to 3.38. 3rd win on the season. He's they showed it on the telecast last night. Zach Wheeler's first 3 starts, he had like an 80 ERA. Since then, it's lights out. He's only given up like 4 runs in his last 6 outings combined. Bullpen held the lead, 7-1. going into the seventh inning. We know that that's not a lockdown lead because we've already blown a 7-1 lead this year. Alec Boehm had 2 more hits last night. Gene Segura had 2 more hits. JT got off the snide a little bit, got 2 hits last night, drove in a run. Look, 1 win doesn't solve the problems. And all the people of course, all the people that aren't ready to blow the ship up. And I know I just preached patience, but we've been patient with this Phillies team now for 3-4 years of continued mediocrity. So there's a difference there. The people, of course, all the people that are against firing Joe Girardi or making major trade, like I keep preaching, take a step back to take 2 steps forward. Whether that's trading JT, whether it's trading somebody that you don't want to have to trade. We've been patient. So 1 win, and of course, after 1 win, all the fanboys that are the supporters say, "Look, see, we're fine. We just beat the Braves." Well, the Braves aren't performing great baseball. They're behind us. We're 8 games out of first place right now. And it's May 24th? Check my calendar here. Yeah, it's May 24th, and we're 8 games out. The Braves are 9 games out, so it's not like they're any better. So it's not like we beat this world beater of a team. We beat a team worse than us. So 1 win. Hey, we got Kyle Gibson, who's pitching right about where I thought. I think it's 3.98 ERA. I basically said he was a 4 ERA, 4.2 ERA guy. He's basically pitching to where I thought. He's on the mound today. He's had some really good performances. Maybe he comes out and pitches well tonight. Maybe he carries that momentum of Zach Wheeler. Maybe we win again. I don't care. It doesn't change the fact that this team underperforms. It's going to go on. It is going to continue to have stretches this year, as constructed, where they're going to lose 6 out of 8, 7 out of 8, 5 in a row here, 5 in a row there. Sorry, getting notifications on my phone here. Thought it was important. Then we're going to go on stretches where we win 7 out of 8, 4 in a row, 5 out of 7. But that's why this team has finished about 500 for the last half a decade, it feels like. Because we haven't made the playoffs since 2011. And we were really bad for a little while. I'd rather this team be 70-92 and working on building that foundation for 2 or 3 years than just every single year being an 81-81, 82-80, 80-82, 81-81. The definition of mediocrity. Because they're going to give you just enough hope, but really deep down inside, you know they don't have a chance. So winning 7-3 last night changes nothing for me. Even if they win tonight, they can come out tonight and win 10-0. It doesn't change anything to me. Joe Girardi needs to go. Major shakeup still needs to happen. Unless all of a sudden they go on like a 25-2 run, I'm still maybe going to say that it's not sustained success. I don't know. This team is just not built for sustained success. And when George talks about with the Eagles or with sports success versus sustained success, he's talking over a whole series of seasons. I'm just talking sustained success this year. This team is not built to go on a run and then hold. Like if they go on a run and get close to first place or lock up a wild card spot or whatever, they're not built to sustain that and hold that wild card spot or hold that division lead because it's always going to come back to inconsistent pitching, inconsistent hitting. And that's what this Phillies team is built around. Inconsistent, streaky. Pitchers are going to get lights out for a while. Hitters that are going to go red hot to ice cold like that for long stretches. That's the problem. Until Joe Girardi's gone, until they decide, I don't know. I know I've mentioned JT Realmuto. His value's at rock bottom right now. You know, Alec Boehm, I just said I want people to apologize giving up on him. Well, you got to move him. But really, you're not trading Bryce Harper. You're not trading Nick Castellanos. You're not trading Kyle Schwarber. So who else do you have to trade? Maybe Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola. I don't know. But you're going to have to trade one big asset and step back to bring in some youth. Find a new manager that can motivate this team. Step backs to take multiple steps forward. Sometimes it's the key. And I don't care that we won 7-3 last night. I don't care if we win 10-0 tonight, which I don't think they'll win 10-0 tonight. It doesn't solve the bigger picture, the bigger problem with the Phillies. That's that. I mean, you know, they need major shakeup still. I'm going to stick to that. I don't care if we go on a run and we're 20-22 now in the season. I don't care. We can win the next 4 or 5 in a row. I'm still going to be preaching this. That I know it's not going to last. Because it's not. It's not built to last. We got, like I said, we got Kyle Gibson going tonight against Max Fried. Max Fried's a really good pitcher, guys. Lefty. So we'll probably see a different lineup tonight just because we'll want to balance the lefties and the righties in the lineup. We'll see how that goes. Right now, the Phillies are underdogs in the game, and rightfully so on the road. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think we're going to wrap the show up. This has been a fantastic show today. I had a lot of fun with this. And I think we're going to bring this topic up again throughout the next couple of weeks as I bring guests on. Different guests, different, when Jason's back tomorrow, Mark will be on Thursday with me. Friday, maybe I'll try to find somebody to join me. I want to bring this topic up all the rest of the summer because I think it's a fantastic conversation. And who do we apologize to? I am sorry, Jordan Mailata. Make sure you shoot me a follow at Bearded Knowledge on Twitter. My golf podcast at Fairway, the number 2 heaven _ live at 6 o'clock tonight. Well, pre-recorded, but my newest episode for this week's Charles Schwab Challenge will be dropping at 6 o'clock tonight on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Make sure you're following along. Turn the notifications on the YouTube page. That way you don't miss us going live. I hit last week's PGA Championship again. 5th outright of the year, JT. Justin Thomas won the PGA Championship last week. Got some great bets, some great fantasy plays. My fantasy plays and my betting for the last month and a half have been on lockdown. So you're not going to want to miss it. Or check in the bio of this show. I've got a link to my latest article. I write a fantasy golf preview article on just a free, cheap-ass WordPress that I do for myself. So make sure you check that out in the bio of the show. Fairway to Heaven tonight, 6 p.m. It'll be dropping on DSM Media. I'll be sharing it out throughout the night as well. Make sure you shoot me a follow at Fairway to Heaven for all my golf information and gambling information. Bearded Knowledge for me. At DSM _ media for the DSM page. Facebook, follow, share. You know the drill, guys. Let's keep this going. This has been a great time. I've had a blast with everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your tweets to hit me up before the show on your comments, everybody. Scooter, Bill, everybody else. Have a great day. Yo, I am sorry, Jordan.